Grok 4. This is the latest artificial intelligence system. And let me be very, very clear. Last night was not your typical tech launch. This is a moment that demands everyone's full attention. We are now at the crossroads where promise and peril are going to collide.
Deep inside the granite quarries of Aswan, there are marks carved into stone that shouldn't exist, at least not the way we understand ancient history. These aren't random chips or rough fractures. They are smooth, curved scoops cut into one of the hardest stones the ancient world ever worked with. Granite here is tougher than most metal tools available at the time. Yet the surfaces look almost controlled, almost deliberate.
It is very hard for archaeologists to explain how that was done using purely leverage and mechanical advantage. You can say, oh, perhaps they built a ramp and hauled the stones up the ramp.
And nowhere is this more visible than on the unfinished obelisk, a massive block that, if completed, would have weighed over 1,000 tons. Around it, trenches are carved directly into bedrock, their walls covered in these mysterious scoop marks. For over a century, archaeologists believed workers used dolerite pounding stones to slowly break and shape the granite. Experiments showed it was possible. But when you look closely, something doesn't add up. These marks don't look like the result of repeated impact. They look too precise.
Grok 4 is a powerhouse. They demonstrated it last night. It surpasses the expertise of PhD level scholars in all fields.
Why the traditional explanation falls apart. When researchers tried to replicate the dolerite process, the results told a different story. Instead of smooth curves, they produced rough, jagged pits, fractured, inconsistent, irregular. Exactly what you'd expect from impact-based work. That's not what we see in Aswan. The scoop marks there are uniform. They follow clean arcs, almost as if guided along a fixed path. Depth and spacing stay nearly identical across large areas. Human labor, especially with handheld tools, naturally introduces variation. Fatigue, angle, force, and positioning all change constantly. Yet here, the marks behave as if those variables don't exist. For decades, researchers noticed the mismatch, but didn't push further, because there was no alternative, until recently. When Grok AI looked at the evidence, in 2024, high-resolution images of the quarry marks were fed into Grok AI, a system designed to analyze patterns without bias or attachment to existing theories. It was simply asked, what created these marks? Grok didn't just question the pounding theory. It rejected it entirely. Instead, it identified patterns consistent with rotational cutting. The arcs, the uniformity, the geometry, all pointed toward a tool, moving in controlled, repeated paths. The precision that shouldn't be possible. When Grok measured thousands of scoop marks, the numbers were shocking. Size variation stayed below 5%. Spacing differences were under 3%. Each arc followed nearly identical curvature, as if created by a tool with a fixed radius. Even modern manual work struggles to maintain that level of consistency over large surfaces. And the entry angle of each scoop is consistent, exactly what you'd expect from machine-guided cutting, not from human labor, inside narrow trenches working under uneven conditions. The implication isn't that humans couldn't do it. It's that they wouldn't do it like this. Marks where humans couldn't reach. Then Grok noticed something even more troubling. Some scoop marks appear in places that don't make physical sense, tight inner corners where a worker couldn't swing a tool effectively. Others continue beneath sections of rock that were never removed, suggesting cutting motion passed through spaces too confined for human access. Some appear on vertical surfaces at awkward heights, requiring extreme leverage and unnatural body positioning. The mystery of the deep test pits. Scattered throughout the quarry are deep, narrow shafts, some reaching 30 to 50 feet down, yet only a few feet wide. Traditional explanations say these were test pits to check granite quality. But consider the reality. Standing at the bottom of a 40-foot shaft barely wide enough to turn your shoulders, with almost no room to swing a tool, dust building up, visibility dropping. And yet the walls of these pits are smooth, with the same consistency found throughout the quarry. In real-world conditions, precision usually decreases as depth increases. Fatigue sets in, conditions worsen. But here, quality doesn't degrade at all. Even more puzzling, some shafts curve as they descend, subtly following internal structures within the granite, structures invisible from the surface. Whoever cut these wasn't working blindly. They seemed to understand what was inside the stone before they reached it. Microscopic evidence changes everything. The most shocking discoveries came at the microscopic level. When Grok analyzed electron microscope images of the scoop marks, it found spiral patterns, a major contradiction. Impact tools leave chaotic, fractured surfaces. Rotational tools leave controlled, repeating patterns. What we see here clearly belongs to the second category. Some granite particles also showed signs of partial melting, suggesting localized heat during cutting. That's not something you get from pounding stone. It's something associated with high-speed friction or advanced cutting methods generating concentrated energy. Then came material traces, tiny residues matching diamond dust and corundum, both used in modern industrial cutting, were detected embedded within the surface. Knowledge of the stone itself. When Grok mapped the placement of the deep pits, they weren't random. They aligned with internal fault lines and mineral veins, features invisible from the surface, but later confirmed by modern geological scans. Whoever placed these pits knew where the best stone was before cutting even began. Today, we rely on ground-penetrating radar, seismic imaging, and core sampling to achieve this level of insight. Ancient Egypt wasn't supposed to have anything like that, and yet their quarry layout reflects the same logic. The extraction patterns appear optimized, minimizing internal stress, avoiding fractures, maximizing usable stone. The trenches follow the natural structure of the granite itself. It looks less like trial and error over generations, and more like deliberate planning based on a deep understanding of the material. The timeline problem. No one can ignore. Then comes the most unsettling part. Some of these precise scoop marks are covered by prehistoric red ochre paintings, meaning the marks came first. Those paintings are dated to 4,000 to 6,000 years before the Common Era, well before dynastic Egypt even began. So if the scoop marks existed before that, they could be older than the pyramids, possibly older than Egyptian civilization as we understand it. Even more confusing, Grok found that the oldest work appears to be the most precise, while later work becomes rougher and more primitive. That's backwards. Technology is supposed to improve over time, not decline. And yet the pattern suggests the opposite, as if something advanced existed first, and later generations could only partially replicate it, gradually losing the original level of precision. What this actually means? There are only a few possibilities. The first is lost technology, tools or techniques that existed but didn't survive in the archaeological record, perhaps made from materials that degraded over time. The second is inheritance, a pre-dynastic civilization that developed advanced stone-cutting methods which later Egyptians inherited but couldn't fully reproduce. The third is more radical. Our timeline might be wrong. What we think of as the peak of Egyptian achievement might actually be a later phase, after knowledge had already been lost, not before it was discovered. But all three point to the same conclusion. We don't fully understand what happened here. What makes this story powerful is that nothing new was discovered. What changed wasn't the evidence. It was how we looked at it. Grok didn't uncover hidden artifacts. It connected existing data, measured patterns, compared methods, and removed assumptions. And what it revealed is difficult to dismiss, because the evidence is physical, carved directly into stone. Archaeology now faces a choice. Either explain how all of this fits within Bronze Age capabilities, or accept that something in our understanding is incomplete.